Where is Maverick Aoko? Where is she? Okay, I know you're going to give me a story that she was found near the border with Tanzania. Some people found her, took her for medical attention, we don't know where. And by then these people found her. They don't have cell phones, they're not on social media. Why have we not seen even one video, even one photograph to prove this information we're being given? Why? And then now, all of a sudden, her Twitter account is active again with a strange voice claiming to be Aoko, doing the kind of posts we know doesn't sound like Aoko at all. So I ask again, where is Maverick Aoko Otieno? Where is she? Is she still really on this planet? Ama, God forbid, is she on transition? We need to know. And we have a very important clue. Her last controversial posts talked about a man, somebody she referred to only as F. The letter F from the alphabet. And many of us who are following Kenyan politics closely are guessing who she was talking about. Incidentally, if you've still not yet taken in my very latest highly sensitive report, I highly recommend that you do so, because I believe the F Aoko was talking about is the same F I cover very thoroughly in that highly sensitive special report. And I believe those of us who have already taken in that special report understand much more about this Maverick Aoko manenos than the rest of us. So I ask again, where is Maverick Aoko? You know, one sign that a regime is going is when they cross the line. Okay? Hitler was very powerful. He was winning. He was clearly unstoppable until he crossed the line. He crossed the line to women and children. You know, when you cross that line, even some of your staunchest supporters, historically, tend to cringe. They hold back. Aye? Where are we going? And that affects your move forward. For the first time in our history, we have a regime that has very arrogantly and ruthlessly crossed the line and failed to handle a member of the fairer sex a little more delicately. Okay? Although admittedly, right from independence, governments have had a problem dealing with great Kenyan women who do not agree with them. Because you see, it seems this government didn't get that memo. You see, when as a regime you start dealing with women, you start dealing with the mothers of somebody, everything changes. In my opinion, even spiritually, everything changes. Now, briefly, please allow me to acknowledge our sponsors for today's show. LemFi. This is an app which you can use to send money to your loved ones. Now, I appreciate there are many similar services around, but I would highly recommend that you give LemFi a try. And there's even an incentive, because if you use my code, KUMEKACHA, you'll be able to get a cash back. In my opinion, this is a service that has quite a number of advantages you may be interested in. Very good exchange rates, very easy to use, etc., etc. Please give it a try today, and then make sure you let me know how it goes. I'll be very interested to know your opinion on LemFi. Right! Now, in case you didn't know, when this battle is finally won, when we enter the new Kenya, this young fearless lady called Maverick Aoko will stand out. Historians are going to talk about her, believe it or not. You know, destiny is a very strange thing. Many times in history, we have seen some people are just thrust into a position. They find themselves in a position to be great, a position of greatness, purely by what seems to be accidental. And yet, there is nothing accidental about destiny. Now, you're going to discover a number of things I'm sure you don't know about Maverick Aoko that I'm sure will help us to shed some light into this very deep Kenyan mystery of how a woman journalist blogger just vanishes just like that. But before we go there, I'm sure it's going to be very super fascinating. But before we go there, I think it is important that we take a peek back at history, so that we understand what exactly the UDA Kenya Kwanza government has done, I'm sure accidentally, by crossing a very important line. A line that should never be crossed by a regime that wants to survive. You know, in this life, sometimes it is possible to believe that you're very advanced, to believe that your modern thinking is the reality, when on the ground, in reality, nothing has changed. And you're in that direction, that brand new direction, with very few people. You see, whatever you want to believe about the position of a woman in society, you cannot run away from the harsh reality. There are a lot of things which have still not changed. And one is not allowed to harass women. No matter how powerful you think you are, you're not. And if you still believe that KUMEKACHA has lost it, that I'm still in old thinking, let me give you a very current example to prove my point. There are many political analysts who are saying that one of the reasons why Kamala Harris lost to Donald Trump has a lot to do with the fact American voters are still yet to wrap their minds around a female president. And I believe that that is a view that cannot be ignored just like that. I believe it holds a lot of water. And if we're on the right track, and I believe we are, this revelation is very startling. That the most advanced democracy in the entire planet still has an issue with a woman president. But that is the reality. Anyway, a quick peek into history. One day in the 80s, in Kirinyaga, during a public rally, where President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi was the all-powerful president then, under the old constitution, a young woman who was a lawyer by profession and also a politician in her own right walked out of Moi's meeting. Now, had it been a man, had it been a man, I don't even want to think what would have happened to that man who walked away from a Moi meeting as Moi was speaking, as the President of the Republic of Kenya was addressing people. Somebody stands up, majestically walks out, and the crowd can see her. And all eyes move from Moi, and they move to that person walking out of the meeting. Do you amenda? Do you amenda? Hey, of course that person's name was Martha Wangari Karua. I believe that is where her nickname of Iron Lady really emerged from. Now at the time, Moi's regime was brutal and ruthless and unforgiving. But nothing happened to Martha Karua. She was not detained. Nothing happened to her. But had she been a man, it would have been a different story. And therefore Moi's regime that day decided not to cross the line. They wisely judged that it would be counterproductive to cross that line. Now, much earlier in history, in the 70s, there is a young woman, in fact a really great Kenyan. Her name was Chelagat Mutai. Okay? And at one time, she was member of parliament of a constituency called, wait for this one, Eldoret North. I'm sure we all recognize that constituency. It is the constituency where William Ruto was first elected into parliament. Yes, that one, the same one. Chelagat Mutai fought the government of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. But even before Moi, she was a strong critic of the dreaded, no-nonsense, will not give you half an inch government of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. And in fact, Jomo Kenyatta jailed her. Take careful note of the fact that she was not detained. Charges were preferred against her. She was presented before a court of law, in public. The case went on. The judgment was passed. She was jailed. Yani they dealt with her from a distance. Okay? That's important to note. Moi's regime, the same thing. Moi had many opportunities to detain her without trial. But Moi's regime did not cross that line. Now incidentally, I once personally met Chelagat Mutai in some very crazy circumstances. In those days, I was a young, cocky journalist just starting out who believed that Kenyan politics was beneath me. I used to focus on international politics only, and especially American politics. And so one day, and in those days as a young man, I used to visit bars frequently. One day, in an out-of-the-way joint, in a place where you would never ever expect to have any kind of intellectual discussion with anybody on any subject, a woman who happened to be seated next to me struck up a conversation suddenly. I believe this was around 1986. And the gist of our discussion was that I was of the view that no sane person should give any time to Kenyan politics. And she was of the view that all of us Kenyans had the power. We had the power to change things. And she held me captive with her political arguments. That had never happened to me up to that point before. This young Kenyan expert in quotes of American politics, a toddler who did not even understand what politics really was. Anyway, after about 2 hours of a very intriguing, super fascinating discussion and debate, I asked the question, by the way, my name is Chris, what's yours? She responded very humbly and very quietly, my name is Chelagat Mutai. I almost fell off the bus stool. Sorry, I didn't get that. You said you're Chelagat Mutai. Philemon Chelagat Mutai. Friends, all my clever arguments evaporated. All my little small knowledge of politics vanished. From that point on, even when I opened my mouth, words refused to come out. true story. If my memory serves me right, I believe we met at the same joint at least 3 or 4 times after that. And looking back in retrospect, decades later, I have to admit that she must have been one of the influences that has created the Chris KUMEKACHA of today. Chelagat Mutai was a very great Kenyan. In my opinion, one of the greatest unsung heroines of the country called Kenya. Na kuambia, hii kitu inaitwa destiny, ogopa. You know, many times people leave this planet and we all assume that's the end of it. They are gone. Until we meet again in another life. And yet, their seeds, some of them have planted many seeds all over the place that are still sprouting and growing and doing very well towards fulfilling the dream that they themselves did not manage to fulfill. Okay? Anyway, there is no doubt on my mind whatsoever that Kenya is a better place because a woman called Chelagat Mutai once lived here. But fast forward to the present and Maverick Aoko. This lady first burst into the limelight in a very, I don't even know what English word to use, in a very crazy way, because she exposed what she claimed was her affair with a man called David Osiani, who was a cabinet administrative secretary, great friend of former President Kenyatta, and of course is married. And what Aoko had to say, what she had to say, had a very big effect on Kenyans. People wanted to hide. Can you imagine the situation? You read a post on Twitter and then you dive under your bed to hide in shame. Okay? She revealed what she claimed were details of things done in private. Let me just leave it at that. Okay? And then she very cleverly and quickly moved into politics, which convinces me that the whole thing was stage managed and the idea was for her to become an influential blogger, political blogger, and this was her strategy, which, as crude as it was, worked like a charm. Okay? And I'm certain that many government hawks initially ignored her, thinking that this is just another woman coming out of the woodwork with very little to say, very little to contribute. Of course, they were not aware of the fact that actually Maverick Aoko served a stint as a journalist with the Standard newspaper. She even had papers in journalism. And being a journalist, if you're a serious journalist, one of the first things you learn is how to get information. And Maverick Aoko has come out with very revealing information that Kenyans have just drunk in hungrily. And these hawks of government started to pay attention. Apparently too much attention, because she vanished. Okay? And I'm afraid the latest developments are a very bad sign. Yeah? We just hope and we pray that she's okay and that she's safe. But at least there's one thing I'm very sure of. These people who thought that Maverick Aoko is nothing, I'm sure by now they have discovered that they were very wrong. Whatever happens to her, whatever happens next, by accident or by design, whether you like it or not, Miss Aoko has booked her place in Kenyan political history. And that can never be taken away from her by anybody. But solving this mystery of her disappearance and then apparent reappearance, where she has resumed posting on Twitter, allegedly, okay, seems to be all linked to this mysterious F she was referring to in her last very controversial posts before she vanished. You know, there's another possibility in all these manenos. You know, sometimes somebody can be turned against their will. Okay? You know, if you're a government, you're powerful, or if you're a very powerful figure in the government, like this F person, you can turn people. Yeah? And even make them do things which they don't want to do, because they find themselves in a situation where they have little or no choice. That is a very likely possibility. However, all roads still lead to this mysterious F. Okay? Now we are still in the kipindi cha lala salama of this highly sensitive special report that I've produced that will open your eyes like never before. And I'm afraid you do not have much time left. For only Kenya shillings 1,999, you can have it, as well as other previous highly sensitive special reports. Yeah, even the General Gola one, Kali sana, and so on and so forth. So if you're in a position to, I really urge you to take action right away. You can see details on your screens right now, repeated in the description area below this video on YouTube, and also in the comments area. We still continue to pray for the safety of Maverick Aoko, a great Kenyan. Until next time, this is Chris KUMEKACHA.